One of the questions that we've been getting asked quite frequently is whether or not employers have to pay their employees COVID leave if those employees have voluntarily made the decision not to get vaccinated. Unfortunately, at this point, the answer is most likely yes, if those employees are subject to a quarantine order. If you recall, New York State had passed a COVID leave law last year, which required employers to pay for certain COVID leave if employees are subject to a mandatory order of quarantine or isolation. Now, the amount that the employer has to pay depends upon the size of the employer, but that statute did not have an expiration date, nor did it provide any qualifiers for employees who voluntarily chose not to be vaccinated. In fact, at the time it was passed, there was no vaccine, so this was not an issue. So as of right now, even though employees voluntarily sometimes make the choice not to get vaccinated and then they contract COVID, if they are subject to a mandatory order of quarantine or isolation, they have to be paid COVID leave under New York's statute. In addition, another question that I wanted to touch on briefly that we've been getting is whether or not we are seeing employers who are imposing or putting in place mandatory vaccination policies. We have been seeing those quite regularly in the healthcare context. Now, the governor has issued a press release that we believe will be followed up by an order that's going to require healthcare employees to be vaccinated. But we're also seeing vaccine mandates in several other industries, private and public. And those types of vaccine requirements are becoming more ubiquitous and more common. If you have any questions about how to implement one of those mandatory vaccination policies or what should go into one, or what are some of the issues associated with a mandatory vaccine policy, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to work with you and walk you through it. Thank you again for attending the webinar. We'll see you next week.